Arsenal begin a run of fixtures tomorrow night where they don't leave London for 6 whole games. They start that run against the Greek superpower Olympiacos, and today I'm going to be previewing that game and predicting the Arsenal lineup ahead of Wednesday night's Champions League clash. This is Arsenal Unfiltered. Let's get started. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Arsenal Unfiltered, your 3 times a week dose of Arsenal coverage with me, your host Mark, wherever you are in the world. I really do hope you are well, and I hope you are still enjoying all the content that has come out in the wake of the Newcastle game. Lots of positivity around the club right now, and we sit 2 points behind Liverpool following that really good victory. We turn our attention this week though to the Champions League, another competition that we are desperate to win. We've never won the Champions League, so it's one that we must make some progress in. And of course, last year we got to the semi-finals. We had a really good campaign. We started this campaign really well as well, with 3 points against Athletic Club. The same can't be said for our opponents on Wednesday night, who started with a draw against Paphos, a really bad result for Olympiacos. So we obviously should be taking advantage of that, but there's still a game to be played, and I'm going to be talking all about that this morning. If you want to hear my match review of this game, make sure you hit follow wherever you get your podcasts from. That way, when my review comes out on Thursday, you won't miss it. It'll go straight to your Spotify or Apple podcasts. You'll see it there, and it'll be nice and easy for you to enjoy on Thursday morning when you're driving to work or taking the kids to school. Whatever you're doing, you can put that on and hopefully revel in our another 3 points for Arsenal. I'm going to get straight into it then, and I want to talk very briefly about our opponents, because in the Champions League now we play so many different teams. You don't, as you used to be able to kind of get to know them in a game, like you get to know them maybe on the away leg and learn a bit more about them, and then come back from that into your home leg or vice versa and know a little bit more about how they're going to play. But you don't get that this time around, and the way we did last season. You just play everyone once, and I'm really glad that we are playing Olympiacos once at home. I can't tell you how good a draw that is, because there are teams across Europe. Galatasaray springs to mind, Fenerbahce, Olympiacos. They are teams where you think, okay, the quality of the squad means that a home game, absolutely fine. You know, that's a great draw at home. Away, it suddenly becomes a big problem, because the atmosphere in grounds, you know, like the Olympiacos Stadium and the Galatasaray Stadium, they're immense. You know, and both of those teams are in the Champions League this year. And we've got Olympiacos at home, so that's a real advantage. The away fans are going to be absolutely brilliant. I can tell you that. They will sing all night long on Wednesday night, and it will be for the players on the pitch to try and keep them quiet, but also the Arsenal fans to drown them out in that kind of corner that they operate in at the Emirates. Like I said, they only got a point out of their first game, but they are first in the Greek league, so they're not doing too badly there. Notable players, you might recognise a couple of names. Daniel Podence used to be at Wolves, now playing at Olympiacos, and Gelson Martins, another player who we've seen a lot of in Europe, that you might recognise. And Gelson Martins is kind of getting on into his 30s now. Used to play for Monaco, Sporting Lisbon. I think he was very briefly at Atletico Madrid as well, Gelson Martins. So they've got a couple of players, but they've got a big core of Greek and Portuguese players, actually. A lot of Portuguese players. Their leading kind of creator, finisher in the league so far is a player called Chiquinho. I must admit, I do not know much about him. 30-year-old midfielder. So he is one to potentially watch out for and keep an eye on. But let's talk about Arsenal, because I think that's what we need to be talking about right now. And I want to talk about the lineup. In our previous Champions League game, we went really strong, and I predicted at the time, we're going to rotate. You know, absolutely. The league's the priority, and I really underestimated Athletic Club. Really underestimated them, and I thought they put in a very impressive performance against us. Potentially the most impressive performance I've seen against Arsenal this year, just given the budget that they're on, the players they had available. You know, they were missing their superstar, and I think You think about how Manchester City played against us, how Liverpool played against us. It was very, very cagey. Athletic Club did a really, really good job of pressing us, making it difficult for us to play out, and just being super organised. And, they're very impressive. And it was a stark reminder that, and I say this every year that I do this kind of previews and match reviews and stuff like that. The Champions League, there is no easy games. There are easier games, but there are no easy games. And I think we kind of laud the Premier League over and above all these other leagues, but still the top teams in those leagues are very, very good. And Athletic Club proved that. I think Athletic Club are probably better than Olympiacos, and we were obviously away at Athletic Club, but even still, I think we do need to be careful. So I've gone with a stronger lineup in this game than I predicted for the Athletic Club game, but I have still done some rotation. I'll talk you through each position as we go. I have gone David Raya in goal. I'm not going to go for Kepa in this example. I think Kepa will get Champions League games. I think he will, but I think that's going to be further down the line. Perhaps when we've already qualified or we've guaranteed a top 8 finish, we'll get Kepa in. I think is it the Kairat Almaty game? That's definitely an option for us to get a player like Kepa in for. Probably not the likes of Atletico Madrid and Bayern Munich, but there are games, maybe away at Club Brugge, definitely not away at Inter, and at home to Kairat. I think it's almost certain Kepa will get some of those games, and hopefully will be qualified. He's obviously had the Carabao Cup. I'm going to be really intrigued to see if he gets the Carabao Cup against Brighton, and the FA Cup when that comes around in January. So, I think Kepa, he's come as a backup for a game like this. I think we stick with Raya. I want Raya to be rotated. Remember at the end of last year, he started making some weird mistakes, and all we could put it down to was kind of mental focus. He'd not had a rest all season because Neto was dreadful when he came in. So I think we do need to make sure that we are preserving David Raya's energy early in the season, but I just don't think it is the game for that, and there are opportunities coming up in those cups and with a couple of Champions League games as long as we get qualified nice and early. So Raya in goal. And I should say, guys, I'm doing this preview before Mikel Arteta's press conference. So we don't know if there's been any kind of, issues or problems in the wake of the Newcastle game. I'm going with the assumption that everyone is, the status quo is as it was. There will be no one returning from injury, and there will be no one, who's not fit or has lost fitness from that game. Of course, a player who did have some level of fitness, enough to be on the bench for that game, was Ben White. And I think Ben White has, he's been very heavily managed so far, but we need to make sure we're managing Jurrien Timber. I think Jurrien Timber's been one of our players of the season so far this year, as he was last year. Really impressive kind of 18 months of football from Timber. We've got to protect him. He is an absolute essential cog in that defensive unit that we've built up. And when Calafiori goes roaming, he tucks in and becomes another centre-back. He deals with tricky left wingers really, really well. So I think this is probably a game, because we're at home, I think it is a game where we can put Ben White out. And isn't that mad, right? A few years ago, it would not have been a conversation about whether you put Ben White out for a Champions League game. Of course you play him. But now I think the hierarchy in that spot has really shifted towards Timber. Timber has that shirt, and Ben White has got a lot of work to get it back. And I did not think I'd be saying that a couple of seasons ago. So yeah, I think Ben White will play at right back. I'm going to assume that he is just as fit as he was. He didn't get off the bench against Newcastle, so I'm hoping he will be fine. I think centre-back's a really interesting one because of William Saliba's injury against Liverpool. He's been really managed over recent weeks, and he hasn't had a ton of minutes over that time. So, I think he got half a game against Newcastle. He played against Manchester City, of course, but he was benched for the Athletic Club game. So it's going to be interesting to see, whether it's William Saliba who plays, or whether it's Christian Mosquera, or whether it's both of them and we sit Gabriel down, because Gabriel's played a lot of football, and we haven't had Nkapie. I think Nkapie probably would, if he'd been available so far or had any minutes, I think Nketiah would have come on at left centre-back at some points for Gabriel to give him a rest, especially in games where we're playing really well, just to get some minutes out of Gabriel's legs. Gabriel plays highly emotional football. He plays on the edge all the time, so I think he would have got a rest. So it is going to be some combination of those guys. I'm going to guess Mikel Arteta sticks to form, and he goes with the left-footed left centre-back and Mosquera in there at right centre-back. So I think it will be White, Mosquera, Gabriel, and at left-back, Miles Lewis-Skelly, for me, has to come in. This isn't a case of, I think on the other side, it's different because you're managing the backup in White. You're managing his fitness, and it's about bringing him in at the right time. At left-back, the worry fitness-wise is the first-choice player, Calafiori, and he's done a really good job. So I think when you get an opportunity like this, take him out. And look, Miles Lewis-Skelly has dealt with Real Madrid really well last season. He's done a fantastic job in big games. Manchester City springs to mind. Let's get him in. This is an easy game to get him in, give him some minutes, keep him involved in the group, and put Calafiori's legs on ice. Because Calafiori, I think, is having a really good year so far, and I want to preserve that. And when you've got, selection decisions of this quality, it's a fantastic problem to have. So Miles Lewis-Skelly comes in at left back. The midfield will be really interesting, of course. Now, I think Mikel Arteta will go about managing minutes in a kind of rotation way. And what I mean by that is he will pick his opportunities to make a small change. And when he does that, it might feel like quite a significant thing, but realistically, it's just about kind of bringing people out for, the odd game here or there to manage their legs. And I think this is probably one where it's time to rest Martin Zubimendi. Of course, he didn't play against Port Vale. So that was a good opportunity for him to get some rest. It was Christian Norgard in the six there with Eze and Nwaneri in front of him. And then Rice did come on, of course, didn't he? At some point during that game. I'm just going to double check that. Yes, Rice did come on. So Zubimendi did get a rest there, but that's not the most taxing game, and Rice got a rest anyway. They both played against Newcastle. Against Manchester City, of course, they both played as well, but the key game that I'm thinking of is the Forest game, where Rice was sat down and given a good old rest with Mikel Merino playing in the left eight, and I can see that happening again, but with Zubimendi sitting out this game. So Rice in the six, Mikel Merino at left 8 and Eze at right 8/10. We're basically playing a 4-2-3-1 at the moment. So I think Eze will play in that 10. The reason I say that is I just don't think Martin Odegaard is yet fit enough. He would have come on earlier against Newcastle, I believe, had he been fit enough. And, a lot of people said that on the podcasts this week. I think this is a game for minute sharing because Eze he's still getting up to speed with the club. I think he needs his minutes, but Odegaard needs his minutes as well. So I'd start with Eze, and then at maybe at half time, but depending on the game state, 55, 60 minutes, pull Eze off and try and give Martin Odegaard at least half an hour. That's how I see it. And for me, it's probably a little bit harsh on Ethan Nwaneri. That's the player I feel for the most at the moment, and the player who I think is losing out the most, not even on the bench against Newcastle. And I'm not picking him here because I know that Eze needs to keep playing, needs to keep this momentum that he's got because he's playing well, but I think he also needs to get up to fitness for full 90s. And I still, great performance against Newcastle. I said that in the match review. I still don't think he looks like 100% sharp in the same way that I don't think Victor Gyökeres looks at 100% speed yet. So I think Eze needs those minutes, Odegaard needs those minutes, and it kind of bumps Ethan Nwaneri out because they're not willing to play him at right wing at the moment. So I think that's an interesting development that is going on, and we're going to have to see how it plays out for Ethan Nwaneri. Could he get off the bench in this game if we are in a good position? I'd love to see it. I'd love to see a swap where, if we're 2-3-0 up and we go to a Odegaard, Nwaneri, Rice or Odegaard, Nwaneri, Zubimendi midfield to replace those three starters that I just spoke about. I don't have the data on who needs minutes and who needs rests, so I'm always going off guesses. I'm always going off, the minutes that they've done compared to the minutes that other players have done and how I'd rotate given the threat. But I think Rice, Merino, Eze is a very accomplished midfield who will be able to deal with the gravity of the fact that it's a Champions League game, You then get Odegaard in there. You might get Nwaneri in there. I think that's positive and a really good place to be. I just want to see Nwaneri get some minutes, I guess is my point there. I think Eze and Odegaard need the minutes more because they're more senior figures and we need them to be flying. But I think it would be nice to see Nwaneri get some minutes off the bench. And then up front, let's start on the left wing because I think this is a really interesting one. Trossard has been getting a lot of game time there. He played against Newcastle, of course, and that was a big call, I think. He played against Manchester City. That is a call a lot of people disagreed with, primarily because it didn't allow Eze to get in the team. I think people were happy in that scenario, to accept. Well, actually, no, I'm going to completely reverse what I was saying there. A lot of people weren't happy with the Marino call because they thought Eze should be there. But if Eze's not going to be there, they definitely wanted him on the left wing, right? So that's why the Trossard one was semi-controversial. So Trossard's been getting a lot of game time, which I think means on the left wing we will absolutely see Gabriel Martinelli. He was heroic in our last Champions League game. He came on and scored within 36 seconds and then set up Trossard for the goal. And it feels like, out of that scenario where Martinelli and Trossard came on a couple of times in a row and made a big difference and contributed. I think Trossard contributed against Forest. They both contributed against Athletic Club. And then Martinelli contributed against City. Trossard came out the better of that and got the spot in the team and was able to play against Newcastle. So I think Martinelli comes in for this game just to manage the legs on that left-hand side. Because Odegaard is not fit enough to start, that means Eze's in the middle. And then I think, you've only got two players there on the left if Eze's in the middle. And I think Martinelli has the fresher legs. Let's get him in. Let's get him playing and see if he can enjoy the Champions League. He's had great success in the Champions League because a lot of teams come to play a little bit more in the Champions League. And then up front, I think, there is one option because I've played Mikel Merino in my midfield to give Martin Zubimendi a rest. It means it's Victor Gyökeres. And this is a decision I think Mikel Arteta will really have to think through. Who do you play in midfield and do you facilitate Mikel Merino going forward to give Victor Gyökeres a rest after he was, he was basically manhandled in that Newcastle game, wasn't he? He was really attacked by their defenders, I would say. I don't think he's going to do that because I think it's really important to get Martin Zubimendi a rest. I really do think that Victor Gyökeres, he's one of these players that I think he needs some rhythm. He needs to play the games. He needs to get sharp. He needs to get to speed. And this is a good opportunity for him, again, just to add to some confidence. It's been a while now since his last goal. He scored against Nottingham Forest, of course. That was his goal. Since then, no goals against Athletic Club, Manchester City, Port Vale or Newcastle. So 4 games without a goal. I don't think he really played much against Port Vale, to be fair to him. I think he came on quite late. Yes, he came on 71 minutes. So I think let's play Victor Gyökeres because I think it's important to give Zubimendi a rest. That kind of means it has to be Mikel Merino, unless you trust Christian Norgard for this game, of which case, of course, you could play Norgard in there and move Merino forward. But I guess what I'm saying is I underestimated Athletic Club and I wouldn't want to do that again. So I would go with Mikel Merino and Rice and Eze in midfield. Keep that quite a very strong unit, to be fair, and go Gyökeres up front. And then on the right wing, another player who needs minutes, Bukayo Saka. Noni Madueke probably plays this game if he's fit, but he's obviously out injured. Ethan clearly not kind of favoured on that right wing. I wouldn't want Max Dowman to play from the start in this game. There's very few games that I would want Max Dowman to play from the start in, to be honest. And Bukayo Saka needs minutes, so let's put him in there and get the game won, and then I'm sure we can shuffle the pack around from there. So just to sum up, it's Raya in goal, White, Mosquera, Gabriel, Miles, Lewis, Skelly. A really strong back line when you consider only one of them is first choice now. Rice, Merino, Eze. Again, a very strong midfield. Saka, Gyökeres, Martinelli. So some rotation. I think look out for key subs in the centre-back position. If Saliba doesn't start, I'm sure he'll come on to give Gabriel a rest. If Odegaard doesn't start, he needs to get on. And then at the front line, Saka will need to be taken off probably around 60 minutes. I think it's a game we should win. It is a home game against one of the lesser teams in the Champions League. Not to underestimate them again, guys. I really want to make that clear. not to underestimate them, but you have to win these games if you want to get through comfortably. We've got difficult games against Atletico Madrid, Bayern Munich and Inter Milan coming up. They're the games where maybe you nick a draw and you think it's a good result. At home to Olympiacos, it's a must-win in the Champions League if you want to make those games as stress-free as possible and not need 3 points against the likes of Bayern Munich and Inter Milan. So let's get it done. I guess that's tomorrow night. Really, really big game. And then West Ham at the weekend. I will be previewing that game, of course, under new management of Nuno Espirito Santos. More of that new manager bounce that we have to deal with. Classic. But yeah, make sure you follow to see all of those. To hear all of those podcasts when they come out. They'll go straight into your podcast provider of choice if you hit that follow button. So make sure you do that, and it really helps me on the podcast grow and let other Gooners see the podcast as well. That's really important. I want to get it to as many people as I possibly can. Really looking forward to the game tomorrow night, 8 o'clock kickoff at the Emirates. If you're lucky enough to have a ticket, enjoy yourself, be loud for the team, drown out those Greek super fans and the ultras. And all that's left to say now, guys, is thank you for following, thank you for listening, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.